Hello and welcome to Discovering Disabilities in Dearborn. As always, I'm Ali,
I'm Rashad.
and today we're joined by Ali Alabbas. How are you doing, Ali?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. It's a pleasure to have you on. This episode has been long in the making, and we go way back. And it's a pleasure to have you on. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Ali Alabbas. The Slim came from a long time when I was younger, but it stuck with me, so I'll take it. I'm a father of two, a baby girl, 3 years old, and Adam, 5.5, and a beautiful wife, Dafaf. And I work as a warranty engineer here in Plymouth, and I've been in the automotive industry for the past 15 years or so, and I do a side gig. I have Insight Media where I do videos, mainly storytelling and interview style kind of videos. And yeah, I've been here in the United States since 1996, and that's pretty much what I do.
Awesome. And you play a big part in this organization called TTM. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about TTM and the reason why we have this podcast here in the first place?
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up because there hasn't been a lot of light shed on TTM. TTM has been around for more than 10 years now. We do a lot of nonprofit work, and mainly it's a nonprofit organization. It's a Muslim-backed, organization, but we focus on something that a lot of organizations don't have maybe the ability to, which is the tech side of things. And I know a lot of centers here and a lot of in our community and outside our community, and some of our conferences that we get into are not associated with a lot of tech people, especially in the Muslim side of things, Muslim world. So we would have to go and hire companies that would charge an arm and a leg. But for us, we come in as a donation base. We'll take that donation and really put it back into our organization to build on our tech and give back to the community. And we have an app team that's involved in multiple apps and released recently some apps, including a prayer app. That's and awesome. We're just trying to help out as much as we can in the community. Anybody's welcome to really, if anybody is interested in evolving their tech. And also, my Insight Media, company, I would not be there at all if it wasn't for TTM. Really, I use all the equipment from here. So they gave me the opportunity to use the equipment, by giving back, to the volunteers, which was me. And I started out with the videos now. Alhamdulillah, like I pretty much do some of the dinners here for the fundraiser dinners. I do videos that are involved in the community, and I try to stay in the community as well. So alhamdulillah, we give a lot back to the community. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And where can people find you or reach out to you if they have any questions to TTM?
TTM. If you want to contact me personally, I would love to. You can go on my page, Insight Media, on Instagram. You contact me from there, and we can definitely get you going from there.
Yeah. So again, we wanted to thank TTM for allowing us the opportunity to have this podcast.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And this podcast was actually built last year.
Yeah.
And we kind of came together because we knew there was a need, and that was another thing too, right? There was a need for a podcast for people that want to start something, groups that want to start something, especially like you guys doing amazing work. And you guys were actually one of the first people that came and asked us to actually use this room, which alhamdulillah, you guys are doing an amazing job. So yeah, we came together, we put it together, and it's located in the IA in Dearborn, Michigan.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah. So we want to get into the meat of this episode, and that is talking about disabilities. And you mentioned you have a son, Adam.
Yeah.
And he's going to be the center of our conversation today. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Adam and what disability he has.
So Adam was born with autism, and we didn't find out until maybe around a year or so when we found out he was doing some repetitive things with his body. So repetitive arm gestures and repetitive no eye contact. I did not want to accept it. My wife did. She said that there was something wrong with Adam. There's something really definitely wrong. And I've never really been through a disability in my life, or I've never really have contacted someone with a disability similar to Adam's. Mm-hmm. I've never even knew what autism was. I've heard of it, but I thought it was a very minor thing. I thought, because kids do live with it. And I think from a lot of people, because there's a lot of light being shed on it now, I did not know how severe it could be. My sister has a disability. I mean, I that's the only disability that I had in my life. She's over 30 years old right now, and she's half her body's paralyzed. She's nonverbal. We have to do everything for her. Thank my mom and my sisters mainly that do the job, really hard work, because they have to put her to sleep, feed her, pick her up, and do all this stuff. She has cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
And her left side is paralyzed. She also has a severe case of epilepsy.
Okay.
Her seizures last more than an hour each time.
Oh.
Yeah. So alhamdulillah, until recently, we found a good doctor that actually was, able to help her. But that's basically my knowledge of any kind of disability in my life. But when Adam came, I was like, there's no way I have a son that's going to be disabled. I had so many plans for him, like any dad, and after a year, my wife found some doctors and some that specialize in autism, and they did some tests and they said, yeah, he's on the spectrum of autistic. So
Yeah. So these tests were like mainly by a neurologist, probably assessing different behaviors,
yes,
things like that.
yeah. They have like basically a grading for each one, like out of 10, and where he falls, and he was in the middle range of autism spectrum.
And you mentioned the spectrum now and how you were never really exposed to people with autism. And we had a previous episode with Maryam Alawiya, which the viewers should definitely check out if they haven't, talking about autism. And one thing that was mentioned is when you meet a person with autism, you just met one person with autism.
Exactly.
Because the way it presents is highly variable across different individuals.
Exactly. That's a great point.
Yeah. So you had never had a child before. This is your first child. You found out that he has autism now. Talk us through your emotions and the plans that you kind of came up with. Were you doing a lot of research, stuff like that?
Yeah. I guess the first 2 years of his life, I was honestly, believe it or not, I was still in denial. I'm like, there's no way that he's in that situation. I thought he was just going to grow out of it. I thought he's a late bloomer, especially even my mom. My mom was old school. Our moms are old school. And she's like, no, he's fine. I've seen kids like him. He'll be fine. He's going to talk anytime now, especially when he started babbling, she's like, that's it. He's going to talk. And I was hopeful he was going to talk. So when that didn't happen after 2 years, especially his feeding and his sleeping issues, and we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
That's when I started doing research. That's when I'm like, okay, this is something serious and we got to really look into this. Now it's becoming a serious issue. And I didn't want to start too late. My wife has already started on this, researching and seeing doctors, neurologists. I didn't want to be late as well. I'm like, I'd rather, jump on it now just in case, even though he's fine. I thought he was fine. I'd rather do it now. So I started doing a lot of podcast listening. I read a lot of, and autism, I was surprised. There isn't a lot about it, honestly, out there. There's very little information about it. As much as we have of it now, it wasn't considered something until like the 80s, right? Something is very new. Even though we've had it for a long time, there wasn't a lot to really look into. And every single person, and that's where we get into like the stem cell later, every single organization or clinic or hospital that did the studies, they kind of have their own way of thinking about it, right? Like, this is what we think it is. They have a lot of common, obviously, structure of what it is, but they have their own ways of really thinking about it and how they should treat it.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of it is like just managing symptoms and not like necessarily hoping to cure it or anything like that.
Exactly. There was really, until now, there's technically no cure for it.
Yeah. So talk to us about how you stumbled across stem cell therapy and just what were your expectations going into treating your son, Adam, with it?
So I want to talk about the struggles that we went through, if you don't mind.
Yes, let's start with that first.
Because that's what kind of led me to that, really.
Okay.
Because, making that jump to stem cell that no one in my community I've heard of, no one that I've ever talked to even, mentioned anything like that, made me jump to that. Because if it wasn't that severe for Adam, I'm like, all right, let's just stick with ABA, because that's what we're doing for him till today.
Yeah.
And we'll see where it goes from there. Honestly, some of the things that he was going through are, just dealing with him as an autistic kid is very tough. One of the things that he was going through is eloping, running away from you. Like, you cannot walk away from him for a second. So if you go in the field, right now he's considered severe autism.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as he grew, he showed more symptoms and they kind of graded him as a high. You can't go anywhere without him running away. Like, if you let him go for a second, he's gone.
Okay.
You can't have the doors open. Everything's locked.
How old was he when you first noticed this eloping behavior?
I think it started around 3 years old.
Okay.
When he kind of got his feet together. You know, mashallah, he's a very strong kid. Even the doctor, like I remember going and he's testing him, you know, pulling his arms and pushing on him. He's like, he's a very strong kid. So his physical ability was always there. Alhamdulillah. Like he's a very active kid. So the eloping kind of makes sense why he does that. But around 3 years old when he started doing it.
Okay.
So the eloping, the language was it was very tough for me. I have my friends that we all kind of got married around the same time. They have their kids and we had our kids around the same time, and I hear their kids saying Baba and they're talking to them, and it literally tears me apart inside. I sit with them and I communicate with them, never let them know about this. They're probably gonna know now. But it really tears me apart. Like it's, inshallah, I don't know if you guys have kids, but inshallah when you do have kids, it's the last thing you want is your kid not to be able to do what other kids are doing.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing was when you go to like a park, you constantly have to hold him because he's gonna go. If he's running one way, he's gonna push the kid out of the way and just keep running.
Right.
He has no sense of like that kid is gonna get hurt. You know, so I'm constantly sliding with him and doing all these things with him. But the three top things really was the eloping, the eating. Till today he does not eat, so he has an issue eating. He only takes protein shakes basically. He has the Pediasure that he takes. Sometimes we mix in some protein just to get him the nutrition that he needs. And the worst one was the lack of sleep. I can tell you the past 5 years, I don't think me and my wife had a full sleep more than like combined 1 month.
Wow.
Every single day he wakes up around 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and just have the full blast of energy, running around the house, waking up his sister, and it becomes such a, you know, and this is honestly like, and this, me as talking as a father, right? I'm not talking as a medical professional. I'm just giving you what we go through with him. You know, a lot of people don't know what happens in the house. You know, when they invite you over to come over, a dinner or a lunch or hey, come, it's like our schedule is never set because we either got to catch up on sleep or we're too tired or we just can't take him with us.
I think that's important for viewers to know and for people with, just because everyone knows somebody who has autism or a family member or a friend who has a child with a disability. So it's important for them to know these kinds of challenges that are not openly spoken about. I kind of want to go back and talk more about your experience with hearing other children speak and those different milestones. It's probably an ongoing struggle, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But how have you, avoided that or tried to overcome that particular challenge?
I'm at a point where I think, I want to say last year, because I think about it, and I find my wife sometimes just like somewhere in the house crying. You know, it's very tough on my wife because she sees it more than I do. It became evident for me, I think, around last year. Where I'm like, all right, I have a disabled son, and we have to go through this. So I accepted it. You know, that's really the bottom line. I accepted it, and I think what helped me a lot was my sister. You know, that my mom has went through it, and she's obviously accepted it for ever since she was 2 years old. I accepted the fact that he has a disability, and we have to go through this together. You know, and we're both strong, alhamdulillah, for accepting that. I think a lot of people still struggle to like accept the fact that we have a disabled son. We coped with it by just accepting it, really. And then keeping faith in God. We keep praying and praying and praying and praying that everybody that goes anywhere, really, like, hey man, please make sure you pray for my son. Like when they go to like ziyarah or anywhere outside, or they're praying, or they're going to Jum'ah prayer, whatever it is. If I can't make it, please, keep my son in prayer.
How about other communities or other individuals? Did you happen to meet other individuals who have children with disabilities? Maybe just the community of people with autism in general at large?
Yeah. So we are actually part of Blue Hands United.
Yes.
We're part of that really beautiful community with Mona. And it was awesome seeing it, actually, because when you have a situation like this, you're always at home trying to take care of it, and you think you're the only one with that situation. Then you go out there and you see other kids, and you're like, oh my God, like, alhamdulillah, my son is this situation and not everybody. And I pray for everybody, but like it could be a lot worse. Yeah. That's another thing that kind of calmed me down, is that this could be a lot worse what we have. Like, alhamdulillah, he's running, he's healthy, he's good. You know, he's not like disabled. We have to pick him up. He's fine. When we met those families, and they gave us their views of things, and you know, we also take him to the ABA, and I see all the families there, and we communicate. That's what kind of helped us a lot. You know, Blue Hands really also had an impact in our life, because we go and we do all these activities. Like, you know, they open the pools for the kids for free. You know, in Dearborn, they have pizza for them. They let them communicate. So that was really nice to see, and that kind of helped us a lot.
I think it's always quite comforting to realize that you're not alone in this struggle, and that people are struggling with this, and it's more common than we think. We're identifying autism more, and that may be, you know, why it's more diagnosed nowadays, because there's more sensitive measures of the condition. But I think it's important to talk about this, to know that you're not alone. It's just, and the faith in God, I think that's huge.
That's the biggest one.
Yeah.
I think for us, that's the biggest role that kind of helped us go through, honestly. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
The activities and the environments that Blue Hands United kind of sets up for community, I think they're also, like, they can also be considered a safe space too. Like, you go and you kind of get everything off your chest, because a lot of times families and parents especially, they'll feel embarrassed or they won't want to talk about this stuff, but then they go there and you see other people who, you know, are dealing with similar situations, and it just becomes a space where, like, everybody gets to share and
Exactly.
Get all that information off their chest, and even learn more too, which is like one of the biggest things, right? Like, if the community in and of itself, the people who are dealing with these situations are learning more, you'll be able to better educate others who are not in those situations.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And you feel a sense of like you're normal.
Yeah.
You know, because when you go to a mall or something, we've tried this thing where, like, I don't want people to judge me here, but other people do it too with autistic eloping kids that run away. You know, there's like this. It's not. I don't want to call it, but it's like, you know, you hook him to a jacket.
Yeah.
He has a jacket, or like it looks like a backpack. And you hook him kind of to like a rope, so he doesn't run away. So, but you give him the sense of freedom to, like, he's walking by himself. We did that a couple of times at the mall, and it tore me apart. Like, I was like, he's my son. What am I doing here? But at the same time, it gave him a sense of, like, running and everything. But the looks that I got from people, the things that I heard, honestly, like, some kids were saying to their parents, like, Mom, why is he doing? It's almost like I'm trying different things. We're trying to see what can work for him, and we stopped doing that, obviously, because it doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Even though it helped him, he kind of had the freedom of running and stuff without, you know, we kind of pull him back, you know, but, you know, we try to be as normal as possible. And thank you for bringing that up, because that's where we kind of, in Blue Hands United, when we go to these safe environments for the kids, we feel a sense of being normal there, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
No one's asking, you know, why is he like this?
Exactly.
Why does he behave this way?
Exactly.
But, you know, if you go to the general public, you're at the mall, and someone is curious to know, how would you expect someone to approach you? I like to ask this question because people are going to ask, people are going to have questions. And rather than doing it behind your back or giving you a weird stare, would you instead appreciate if somebody approaches you and asks you, like, a genuine question, or just not say anything at all, which is totally fine as well?
100% for it. I think there's no wrong way of asking, because I know the people that are going to ask are just curious. So I know, coming from them, they're probably going to be thinking about it 10 different ways of asking without offending you. So I know it's coming from a good space, you know, a good place. So I 100%, you know, I would say, please, if you see somebody that's out there, you know, with a disability, it'll make me feel better. Because I know that, okay, walking around, there's people curious, but at the same time, they're just genuinely just curious of why this is going on or what's wrong with your kid, instead of just giving you that look. Because that look can be just like, I hope they're okay. Look, you know what I mean? Instead of what we think is negative.
So we talked about the three things that kind of pushed you to, you know, seeking out some scientific methods, and that was eloping, the malnutrition, and the sleep deprivation for him and for the whole family.
Right.
So kind of walk us through the stem cell therapy, or if there's anything you want to talk about before that.
No, it's perfect. So obviously, like, so I got into, you know, my research phase with Adam, and I stumbled onto a podcast with Dr. Neil, and it was Joe Rogan and him, and then there was also another actor from Hollywood. I forget his name right now. He took his dad there because he had 3 hip surgeries that were just getting worse and worse and worse. Every time he does the hip surgery, it was getting worse.
Where did he take him?
He took him to. I'll get to that right now. So he'll take him to Dr. Neil's Stem Cell Therapy Institute, basically. And what he talked about was we took him there for the first time. They injected stem cells in that area, and he said he was better than all the three surgeries combined, like instantly. You know, within months he was feeling better. And then he started talking about stem cell therapy for autism, and that's what kind of really got me, you know, really interested. And he talked about how there's, you know, tens and thousands of cases that till today had no side effects at all. Very minor stuff that we experienced with Adam. But so basically, Dr. Neal was doing this for cancer research to see how stem cells can help with cancer. I mean, stumbled on other issues, and one of them was autism, and he saw the effects of, you know, positive effects with autism and stem cells. So he tried to open a clinic here in the United States, but, you know, the regulations here are very tough, especially with stem cells. And Panama was one of the countries that was actually, you know, open to these kind of clinics. And he opened up his clinic there, and ever since he's been getting literally thousands of patients there. It's one of the highest rated clinics in the world right now.
Wow.
For stem cells, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I don't know if we should kind of give a background to the viewers about what stem cells are.
Yeah.
Sure some of them know. I'm not a doctor, but basically stem cells are cells that could, you know, differentiate into different kinds of cells. They could become different kinds of cells, and different stem cells have different capacities to become different cells. So that's why they could be used for treatment and healing properties and things like that.
Yeah.
So you stumbled upon this clinic in Panama.
Mm-hmm.
Did you book the flight right away, or walk us through how you ended up making that leap of faith?
Honestly, the biggest challenge, there was two things. There was my wife and there was money.
Yes.
So it cost around, I think it was $17,000 for one treatment.
It's hefty.
It's hefty. Especially newly married and, you know, trying to get your life together. So, but to me, honestly, you think, you don't even think about that, right? Really, because I'm like, if this money's gonna help, you know, my son, I'm gonna really regret it if I look in the future and he was still doing bad, and I'm like, you know, I could have done this and I could have done that and didn't do that, you know. So the money wasn't. It's an issue, but it wasn't an issue as far as like spending it, you know. Yeah. The second issue was my wife. Trying to convince my wife with this brand new therapy or treatment that's, I've asked around, no one in the community have done it. No one in America, a lot of people from America have done it really. It's outside America, so not a lot of people know about it. And I try to convince her. I kept sending her articles. I'm at work. I'm sending her text messages of links and different things. And finally she said, you know what, let's do it. You know, because I really don't want to do anything unless we're all together in this. You know, I want us to be on the same page. And I didn't want to convince her as far as like, let's, you know, she's 100% supports what I do. But as far as like being on the same page is always a good thing, you know, doing something, coming in together with it.
Of course. Yeah.
So these cells, when they get introduced to the body, instead of going to like, if he has issues in his, and also autism, for people that don't know, it's issues in the brain and in the gut too. So they go hand in hand. Usually they have gut issues, and that's one of the things that, you know, Adam went through. And I forgot to mention, up to 4 years old, until we did the stem cell, he was having gag reflexes.
Okay.
Anything that would kind of mess with his sensory issues, he would literally, you know, throw up. So if he would like, there was a harsh smell. Like one time we had like barbecue pizza, like literally just he walked in the room right away. He gagged.
Really?
You know, he gagged. Yeah. Anything you put in his mouth, he would gag. So he had a gut issue, and you know. So we wanted to make sure everything was good with him. So we did the blood work. Everything was okay. It was actually very hard for me to convince the doctor to do blood work for us to go to Panama because of the stem cell.
He was skeptical about it?
He was very skeptical. He was like, what are you guys doing? He's like, you're spending so much money. This is now proven. Don't do it. Yeah.
Okay.
He's like, we I don't know. I know you're medical school. I don't know right now if you guys are talking about stem cells as much as he's an old doctor at old school. Yeah. So he said, we've never talked about this in school. We've never really brought it up, and this is something new. And he was very, very pushy about it. Yeah. He supported us, but he said, I would think about this, you know, don't jump into it, which it makes
I understand
sense.
that skepticism.
100%. 100%. So yeah, from there, we sent it over. We did an application online on the Stem Cell Institute website, sent it to them when we got approved.
Yeah. So you have to send an application?
Yeah, you have to send an application with the blood work and, you know, his age and his, basically, it's a very detailed application for Adam, like everything about him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is like, you know, a really an established clinic is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
you know, they're not just looking for money. They're actually looking to help people, and it's yielded good results.
It has, honestly. And from everything that I listened to about the doctor, he seems very genuine.
Is Dr. Neil?
Yes, Dr.
So it's the same guy that you saw on the podcast, or who they mentioned on the podcast?
They had a lot of healthcare people there. So I didn't meet him. At the time, he was out of the country. He's trying to open other clinics in the world. But this is such an established, there's whole NFL teams that go there and do the procedures. Like NFL teams that I follow, they go there and actually do the procedure. Every time they get an injury, they just want to heal their body. They do that. He said they have celebrities, they have princes from Saudi Arabia that go there. Like everybody goes there that does this. And I was so shocked. It was a no-brainer. I know it was established. I knew these guys were legit. And they had a Facebook community with hundreds of families that talk about this and all the positive feedback they got with their kids that had autism. So for me, it was a no-brainer, man. I'm like, we have to do this.
So just walk us through the timeline a little bit.
Yeah.
Of how old Adam was this time and how long the whole process from the time you sent the application to when he was actually there getting the procedure done.
Yeah. So when he was around 3.5 or so, we got accepted within 2 months. We were on the plane and we flew down to Panama. By the way, like 5-star treatment. These guys they do a great job. They really make you feel comfortable. They have like little pools for the kids and everything. So we went down there and it was very comfortable. It's basically, the clinic is in a hotel. The hotel is it's on the ocean, and the clinic is on top of the hotel. And they made it where they want the kids to be as comfortable as possible. They don't want them to get sick. They don't want them to get stressed. So it was really for the kids. I enjoyed it too. But we would stay there the whole time. They don't want us to go out and explore the city because they don't want Adam to get sick, because they want the stem cells to work only for his autism issue. So we get there. They get us there. The first day they do blood work, and what you can do is you can choose. They have different packages. We chose the middle one, which is around 40 million stem cells.
Wow.
And there's other ones, I think over 100 million stem cells, the most expensive one. So we were able to get the one in the middle. And the first day they do blood work, and then the next 4 days they divide the 40 millions. Every day they do 10 million, and it's very quick. I mean, you go there, they just poke him right in the vein. Like, it's a minute procedure. You just have to hold him down really for not to move, because they want to make sure every single cell is in there. And that's pretty much it. It was very simple, very straightforward. And I actually got to see the lab in the back. They did a kind of an interview with me at the end, and they wanted to see how the whole procedure went well and everything. And I told them, yeah, it went great. So they did an interview in the back, and they took me to the back, and I saw the lab. And I swear, like, it looked like out of a movie. They were hazmat suits, goggles. You've probably seen it in your medical field. But they were top-notch, clean, beautiful, pristine, lab. So I'm like, I knew I was in good hands with these guys, really. And honestly, it sounds like I'm getting paid, saying all these things. But honestly, I just had an amazing experience, really. Like, they treated us so good, yeah.
Did they explain to you how they got the stem cells?
Yeah. So the stem cells that they got, and what kind of differentiates them from other, there's one in, I think in Cancun, I believe, in Mexico, somewhere in Mexico.
Okay.
That's kind of the second most, popular one that people go to. That one, I think they do 3 or 4 layers of cleansing those cells. With these guys, they do 7 layers of cleansing. So they take the cells from the placenta, from a healthy pregnant woman, and then when they take the placenta, they have to take it within the first few minutes, or they're losing the cells. And once they take the cells, they take only the healthy ones, the pristine ones, and from those they multiply them.
So it doesn't have to be stem cells from your wife or from the mother of the child.
No,
it can be any.
It could be anybody.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be anybody that's healthy.
Yeah.
And for everybody that's out there that's thinking about the religious side of things, I did ask our scholars.
Yes.
I asked our Sistanis where we follow. They said that it's perfectly fine. So yeah, they take the placenta, and they take the stem cells from there, and they multiply them by millions and thousands. And what they do is they do a 7 layer cleansing for these cells, and they take the best cells out of those and they introduce it to the child.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure about the whole cleansing process. I've never heard of it personally.
Me neither.
Yeah. So I'm not exactly like, I'm not a medical expert here,
Yeah.
but they told us they take it through a 7-layer kind
Okay.
of process where they say not all cells are as healthy as other ones.
Yeah.
So they want to make sure they'll take the best ones, and they have, I guess, the technology to do that there.
And they probably incubate the cells, help like make them proliferate, make more of the cells before they inject
100%,
them. Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
Sounds
Yeah.
like they're very thorough and very careful.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, have you noticed any changes with Adam since the stem cell therapy?
So he's 3.5 years old. He gets his stem cells.
Yeah.
Now you guys are done with Panama, back in Michigan.
So
What changes, if any?
yeah, so we went back home, and within the first 6 months, I want to say the first couple of months were okay, and then the next 4 months were absolute double hockey sticks.
Yeah.
Like, it was really bad. He was having complete aggression moments. Like, he was very, very aggressive around everybody. He was always aggressive with people. He was aggressive against himself. He started to, like, he was already kind of like, when he gets upset because he can't explain what he wants and how he wants it, so he'll like hit himself a little bit, like on the chest or on his head. But it got worse, a lot worse. But they did tell us that. They said one of the side effects is that he might have more aggression, but then it's just going to decline after that, and you'll hopefully see that kind of like regulate into something positive. And they were on the dot. Like, as soon as that 6 months hit, like, we started seeing improvements. His gag reflex started to go away, which was huge. Like, that's one of the things that we couldn't do, is like, we couldn't go to restaurants because, not just because of that, it's other things too. Because we don't want him to, like, gag in front of people. It's kind of embarrassing. We had that happen to us multiple times where he kind of threw up because somebody else was walking with food. So that went away. The eating got a little better.
You know, it's interesting. Sorry to interject,
No,
but like oftentimes when I've heard of autism, I hear about like the sensory stimuli, like the over stimulus is usually based on visual, hearing.
Yeah.
It's the first time I kind of heard about like the smelling and then the gag reflex.
It's very serious. It's very serious because it's not just for him and not for us. Like, we worry so much about what people like are seeing too. Because I don't want people to look at him in a negative way. I want him to be as normal as possible when we go public. Like, we had some funny stories, man. Like, I remember we were doing one of the conferences for TTM, and I usually just take my family. And that one day we had a little bit of time. We go to one of the IHOPs there to get some pancakes for him and try to feed him. One bite, boom, throws up everywhere. I'm like, oh my God, dude. So it's very challenging for that to go away.
It's huge.
It wasn't 100%, right? It wasn't 100%, but it did, like, I think went away by 50%, really, like, or maybe more, which was a huge thing for us. His eating got a little better. So, like, in different situations, he would eat a lot better, right? In the right situation, in the right time of the day. If you catch him in the right time, he probably would eat. So he would eat a little bit here and there. His eye contact was better, a lot better. And he would listen. Like, in a crowd of people back then, he would call his name until tomorrow. He would not listen to you. He would not even bother to even look at you. But now every now and then he'll look. Go back, do his thing, but he'll look,
Yeah, at least recognize
which was
his
huge.
name,
So, yeah, those are the things that really, right away, we noticed. Eloping was getting better, but not as, obviously, he's still running, but not as, not like before. I don't know if you know, but we took him the second time. We took him for a second time stem cell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, recently. Yeah, in February.
Okay.
Yeah. And this second time, honestly, that we took him, same thing. We saw it work, and we kind of decided, me and my wife, we started, like, the process of, looking into the future and how we're going to, afford this and what we're going to do. So we said, if we see anything positive out of this, we'll take him the second time. Because when we went there, I was surprised in the plane, actually, on the way there the first time. The lady that was sitting next to us with her son, he looked, autistic, because, now you have an eye for it. We asked her, like, hey, what's going on? And we took the back seats. Same thing with her, because just in case we don't want to bother anybody, because they don't like confined spaces. That was pretty tough too, actually. It's a whole other story. But I'm like, hey, so what's going on with you? How's your son doing? She's like, oh, I'm going to Panama for stem cell. I'm like, that's amazing. She's from Atlanta. We still talk to her, actually.
Wow.
Her son is doing good. He's doing a lot better. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But, like,
were they first timers as well with the stem
they were
cell?
first timers.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I was going at. There was other families that we met there. A lot of them, some from Michigan, that also were going there. And even, God bless her soul, Dr. Rana Sabah.
Yes.
I used to do her videos. And I mentioned stem cell, and actually her niece is also autistic, just like Adam. Same age, same things. She doesn't eat as much and whatever. So she also like was really interested, and she sent her niece over there,
Really?
and they saw some positive gains from that as well.
Yeah.
So when we saw the positive gains, we said, you know what? Again, we went in the same process. We're like, okay, we have an opportunity. If we don't take this now, we might not get it again, because they say, according to them, the best time to give it to them is from year 2 or 3 until like they're 7, 8 years old.
Which kind of makes sense.
Time.
Yeah. I mean, usually you want to treat problems earlier because
Exactly.
the child has a greter capacity to make like behavioral changes
Exactly.
earlier on. So how many rounds of stem cell therapy do you expect or are planning on doing?
We did it the second time. We came back. It's been since February now, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about the gains that he also had from this round.
Yeah.
And this round, honestly, he gained even more. Now the running, if he runs and I call his name, he actually stops, which is unbelievable. I never thought I would. As simple as that, right? From people, like, it's nothing to them. Like, their kids, it's so natural to them. They don't even think about it. They don't think about the fact that my son is going to run. I'm going to call his name. He's going to come back to me. To them, it's nothing. To me, it's a huge deal. It's a really big deal. So when he runs, he stops. When we walk in the mall, he's walking next to me instead of running away. I'll let him do his thing. But if I see him kind of like, okay, he's going out of control, I go grab him. But he's actually doing these things. He's actually stopping and, listening. Now when I call his name, he's 100% on me. Like, he's looking at me. The eating even got more better. Sleeping, it's still a struggle, but he's sleeping through the night a lot longer than before. So he would sleep around 12 o'clock. He can't sleep, because if we put him to sleep earlier, he'll wake up at 2 o'clock for sure. So he'll sleep around 12 o'clock, 12:30, and wakes up around, 5 and 6 instead of the 3 o'clock. So that got better too. So a lot has changed for him in the second round. Now, you asked if we're going to take him another round and how many rounds should you take him. There's families out.
The recommendations, basically. If you know.
Exactly. So I don't know, because I've met families there that can afford to go. I met a family from India there. They took their kid there 7 times.
Wow.
And I look at the kid. It's a girl. Yeah, it's a girl. She's 100% fine, perfect. And I asked them, like, what are you guys doing here? She's like, oh, she had autism. It's gone now. She's perfect. But we just want to make sure she's okay. We just want to give her more. How's she doing in school? Straight A students.
Interesting.
I'm like, okay, but they, it looks like they're well off made, so they can afford to go there every single year and spend that money. But honestly, I would recommend, if you can do it, to go at least once and try it, because it's not gonna hurt to try. Honestly, there's no side effects at all. As far as the whole process is very easy. It could be emotionally stressful on you, because when you see your child go through this, you're traveling across the world just to give him a treatment to make him feel better. That has a big toll on you. Me and my wife went through a lot there in Panama the first time. The second time it was a lot easier, because we knew what we were expecting. But to see your son go through that, so expect a lot of emotional stress there too. But I would definitely recommend to at least go once, because once you do it once and you see that kind of positive gain, then you can decide yourself if you want to go again or not. Yeah.
When you say there are no side effects, is that just based off like the personal experience with Adam, or did the clinic themselves say like they're
no? And like I mentioned before, Dr. Neil, he said we had tens and thousands of. The only side effect is aggression, which goes away. Mm-hmm. But they said there's nothing that's ever happened to these kids that was life-threatening or serious. No, I mean, it's until now, it either works or doesn't. Each kid is different, but nothing where it's gonna make him decline. Okay. Yeah.
It definitely seems like a promising, modality of treating autism.
Yeah.
Some people might say, why are you trying to cure autism? Why don't you just accept the child? But I think, if anything, if you're trying to improve the quality of the life of the child and your family, I think that's completely fair. And it sounds like you're trying really hard to do that.
Yeah, that question,
respect.
That question, I really appreciate it. That comment you made, honestly, I heard it from a couple of people, and I don't mean to sound like mean about it, but it really throws me off the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because you don't know until you know.
Yeah.
You don't know until you're in that situation. And a couple of my friends like, hey, you know what? I think it's fine. Just go through it. I'm like, can you spend one day and I swear I don't want to sound like I'm making it bad on us and look, oh my God, we're going through all this, but I'm just giving you the reality of things.
Yeah.
Not just me. All these other families are struggling through it in their community. There's so much you can say, but it never explains the internal in that situation.
People always mention the silver lining, but they don't live through what you live through.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And alhamdulillah, like Adam is I feel like he's here compared to other kids that I saw.
Yeah.
Like I always pray to God that I thank him for what he gave me, because it could be so much worse. It could be so much worse. So yeah, for the people that do say like just live with it, and it's not just for you, and it's not just your struggles that you go through, the lack of sleep and all that other stuff. It's for him.
It also seems like if you improve the child's sleep through this method, just the benefits are going to start spiraling.
100%.
Because you're going to improve his sleep, you're going to improve his nutrition. Other things, normal growth is more likely to happen.
And nutrition is huge too.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And sleep and nutrition, you hit it right there. So that's what really you're hoping for, like really just the sleep and nutrition. We literally decided, me and my wife, I'm like, if Adam doesn't speak for the rest of his life, if he doesn't do the normal things, that I just want him to eat and sleep. If he can do that, then we should be, we're good.
I think a positive takeaway too is that the gag reflex kind of went away, because that may have been what was deterring him to eat in the first place. He didn't like the feeling of gagging.
Yeah.
So he didn't want to eat anymore. And
Exactly.
now that it's improved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit
No,
more.
he's eating pasta. He's eating rice.
Alhamdulillah.
He's eating all these different things, but he does eat it with water. So what I mean by that is that he loves, so autistic kids and water go hand in hand. The number one, God forbid, the number one cause of death with autistic kids is drowning. They love water. So with Adam, naturally he just loves water. So what we do is, he stands in the sink while he plays with water. We just feed him. feed him on the side, and it works. It works. Even though we hate it because his food is in the bathroom, it's weird, but
You got to do what you got to do.
you gotta do what you gotta do, man. Sometimes it's in the bathtub. I'm like, all right, man.
Yeah, if it
It
works.
is what it is.
If you have any other strategies like that, please share them.
Oh, so I didn't think about that actually. No, so the water thing is huge. So I know we do it, and I know our friends do it too. From Blue Hands United, they actually do some of that too. Other things, what does he do?
How about with sleep? Maybe any tricks?
Sleep?
Yeah.
Lullaby music.
Okay.
Yeah, he has certain ones that he looks into the TV. There's either like the penguins or the fish tank, and he likes it.
Yeah.
He goes to sleep to that. But he has certain things. He has a corner. So they like confined spaces. As much as they don't like to be confined, they like to be confined as well. So there's like this corner in our couches. He doesn't sleep in his bed. So he likes to go and put his head in the corner, cover his whole area with a blanket, and he goes to sleep that way.
Wow.
So when we see him do that, I'm like, all right, he's going to sleep. Then when he's done, and when he falls asleep, we'll take him to the bed. So that's another thing too. He likes confined space. If families out there are having issues with kids sleeping, there's tents they sell at some stores. I think IKEA has them too. It's like a bed with a tent on it, and they like that. Adam likes to be confined in that dark area.
Yeah, probably like very little stimulus. And
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So I know you noticed some of the different behavioral changes and improvements, but I also know that he's continued to go to ABA therapy.
Yes.
Have they noticed any appreciable changes as well?
So it's funny you said that, because when we did it the first time, we didn't mention anything to them.
Okay.
Because we wanted to see what they say. Like we want to, I want him to come back. I want him to naturally come out of it. Because if I tell you, Adam with the stem cell is going to help him, anything that you see out of him, be like, hey, that's working, So,
not placebo.
So first we had the ABA therapist to come to our house, which was very odd and weird. We didn't enjoy that very much, because it's not comfortable for everybody, right? It's comfortable to see your kid go, what he's doing, and you're on top of the therapist, but at the same time, it's the same environment for him. So he's not really gaining that much. It's just a different person doing different things for him. So when actually they did notice some things, they did say, hey, he's improving in this area, he's improving in that area. And then we mentioned it to them, and then it kind of everything clicked. Yeah. But now it's like, all right.
That's smart. You did a little scientific
experiment.
Yeah,
we did. And they actually saw improvements.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Does he go to school?
He does go to school, but we have it set up where some schools actually have special classes for kids in his situation. So I think they don't do more than 7 kids in a class, just so the teacher can focus more on them. And they have everything blocked off, like the sink is blocked off for the kids, because they all like to go to the sink. They always have like special locks on them. So he goes to school Mondays, full day. And then the rest of the week, he'll go like half day. And then he'll spend the first 4 hours in the morning, he'll go to school. And then second 4 hours of the day, he'll go to ABA therapy and finish it off there.
Does he enjoy school?
It depends. Sometimes he has a really hard time, and their method of like kind of, like let's say he's crying, right? He's having his moment. They just let him cry it out. Like they don't let him, which bothers me a lot because I know that's their approach and it's the right way I think to do it. But in my opinion, I want to hold him. I want to make sure he's okay. I want to, so that bothers me a lot when they tell me, oh, he was crying for 15 minutes, so we let him do his. I'm like, what? 15 minutes crying? And it's like extreme crying. It's not like, he's crying with tears, and I just let him do his thing. As a parent, you want to wipe his tears and clean his nose when they cry, and like knowing that, and sometimes he comes, and I don't expect him to do that. But like, his nose stuffy because I know he's crying all day. I just feel so bad, but he does enjoy it for the most part because there's other kids. And even if he doesn't, I know it's best for him. I know it's the best thing for him right now is to communicate with other kids and the teachers and the programs they have for him. And the teachers are very caring, honestly. Like the last teacher we saw, she went to another, we actually moved schools, but she was an amazing teacher. This one right now that we're with, she's also just an amazing teacher. She cares. We really feel like she does care. She's not just, there for 8 hours a day. So I think we appreciate them very much, actually.
Honestly, I commend you for your efforts for, going to another country to try to help your son. I think a lot of people just say, this is khalas, this is God's will, or, they just stick to conventional treatments.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you are really actively trying to search for ways to improve the quality of life of Adam, and I highly commend that. You mentioned you have another child.
Yeah.
Daughter.
Mariam.
How is she with Adam? If you could talk a little bit about that, and how is Adam with her? Probably more importantly.
So Adam actually, at first, she's only around him. There's no other kids in our family right now. Just recently, my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law just had kids, but they're young still. She went through a lot with him because she doesn't know what he's doing around her. Like he's not talking. He's always just making sounds. So she's mimicking him, and I think until now, like she's saying things. She's 3.5 almost now. She's saying a few sentences here and there, but it's all the repetitive stuff that she picks up from the TV or us or the shows that she watches. So alhamdulillah, she's great. She's normal, and everything's good with her. But a lot of traits that she's picking up is because of Adam.
I see.
Like for example, she'll take the toys and just throw them. Instead of like, no, Miriam, don't do that. Like you're supposed to put it away here. Like she thinks that's fun. She thinks that's the way to do it. Or she'll go under the table because that's what he does. Or go on top of the table and start like hitting things, because that's what he does, like for stimulus purposes. He'll go on top of the dinner table and just jump. We have no chairs on the dinner table. If you come to our house, everything's pushed to the side, space for him to run around because sometimes he'll like run into something or just for him to be more comfortable. There's no pictures on the wall. There's no vases because he'll like either grab it or push it or something like that. Just recently, after the second stem cell visit that we did, the treatment, we started putting pictures back and some of the things back because he's like, all right, it's a picture, cool. I'll just look at it. He'll look at it and want to touch it, but he doesn't. We'll call his name and he'll go back, So with Maryam, honestly, I feel bad for her because she's not growing up with, because we always wanted an older brother for her to kind of protect her. It's almost like the other verse now. She's looking out for him in a way, like that's what we see her do. So he does run after her, but in a playful way. Like back then, I remember one time he hit her so hard, he pushed her. She literally stopped breathing for like over a minute. Like she was crying, and then like she started like, I really thought I was gonna call 911. He pushed her so hard, and she fell back on her head. He just didn't know any better. He just kept running and didn't even know what happened. But he got a lot better with her. He's looking out for her, kind of like he knows where she is. They're doing like, she tells him, you're not gonna catch me, and she runs away, and he kind of runs after her. So it's so cute to actually see some normal aspect for him with his sister. So alhamdulillah, it started out pretty rough, but it's definitely on the positive end right now. It's doing a lot better. Yeah.
As siblings, they're inevitably going to pick up traits from each other.
Yeah,
so and I think separating them could probably be a bigger harm than a good.
Oh, never. Yeah,
so.
yeah. I would never do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I first, I really want to thank you guys for bringing that up. First, I really commend you guys for what you're doing. It's amazing. I think a lot of people should know about this more often and listen to this more, because there's a lot of things going on in our community, a lot of good things, and you guys are bringing the good light to it. So I commend you guys for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also, thank you for having me. Honestly, I never thought I would be here talking about my son. Even yesterday, going through the questions and seeing what we're going to talk about, my wife got emotional. She's like, I can't believe you're going to talk about our son, as a disabled. And alhamdulillah, it is what it is, honestly, and we're so blessed to have friends, and we have really good friends that actually support us and are been with us and support us in so many different ways that I can't get into because they'll get mad at me for exposing them in a positive way. But honestly, it's been amazing having the community that we have. We're so lucky to have the community that we have, and I just want to give my thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the opportunity to do these things for my son, especially for what's going on in the world right now. To have the opportunity to give this to my son, where other people are just, they just want a wall and a roof on their head. I can't ask for more, really.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
You've strived to improve the quality of the life of your child. I mentioned this time and again. Just want to plug in our research project to our viewers or anyone interested. We are trying to understand the quality of life for people with disabilities, because we think it's so important to understand how the quality of life of individuals with disabilities are affected, and more importantly, how disparities may arise from demographic factors such as being Arab American and things of that nature. So we have a research study. You can access it on our website, and we'll also attach it below. So just make sure to check that out. Again, thank you so much, Ali.
Thank you,
and
guys.
I'll let Rashad end it with the dream segment.
Yeah, I just also want to add that the research project and Ali, you sharing your story, and other guests who have shared their stories, and people who make themselves vulnerable and share their experiences, that is not just a way for you guys to get things off your chest, but also for the community to learn more. And really, that's how change is going to happen from people sharing their stories and sharing their experiences. So whether it's through the research study, whether it's through coming on this podcast, whether it's through sharing something on social media, whether it's related to a dream or not, it's very beneficial to the community and very powerful, and it sends a very emotional message to everyone, and helps them, helps the whole community and society to just become better and more understanding and more knowledgeable. So thank you to everybody who has been on this podcast. Thank you, Ali, for sharing your story.
Yes, thank you.
And before we end the segment, just wanted to ask you if there are any resources, articles that you've come across that you'd like to share with the community. And that's in addition to them reaching out to you with any questions that they may have.
You shared a ton of stuff, so you don't have to say anything if you can't think of anything.
No, honestly, at the top of my head, if you search Dr. Neil on YouTube, just search Dr. Neil stem cell treatment.
Not Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Actually, his name is what's his name? I forget his name.
Talking about astronomy and stuff.
Dr. Neil Riordan, Rordan. So if you search him up, he's very well informed. He has a lot of podcasts. He has one with, like I said, Joe Rogan is where I found him. He's the one that I honestly got a lot of my information from there. I know Duke University did a lot of research on it. Duke University actually just started, sorry, we don't want to get into this again, but Duke University started treatment here in America. Yeah.
Okay.
They're taking actually patients, but it's by list, so it's a long waiting list. We tried, it didn't work, but so they're kind of accepting it now in America. But yeah, if you want to research him, I think that's a good segue of getting into other things if you want to research more.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
Awesome.
you very much, Ali, for
Thank
being
you.
on. With that, we'll move on to the dream segment. Basically, we ask this at the end of every podcast, and it's a simple question: what is your dream? And this dream can be related to anything, disability related, related to Adam, related to you, related to anything. So, Ali, what is your dream?
Oh man. Yeah, you know, he told me this.
We like to surprise you with
Oh my god. What is my dream? See, the thing is, I don't want to sound selfish here, because if I go one way or one way. All right.
You can have more than one dream if you want.
Yeah, you're right, actually. My dream, honestly, my family, I think, first and foremost, obviously, is for honestly, all I pray for. When I pray, it's always about Adam. It's always it's obviously everything around me, but it always focuses on Adam and my sister Dua. That's also disabled. So when I pray, it's always them two, like at the end, right? They're always like the cherry on the top of my dua. My second dream is to live in a Muslim country. Really, like that's all we talk about now. It's like, especially what's going on right now. Like I really want to be associated with, like neighbors that are all the same background, the same culture, the same everything, especially what's going on in our lives. Not having to worry about what our kids are going to be learning in school and these other aspects of things. But my other dream is to really live in a Muslim country, inshallah.
Those are wonderful dreams, and hopefully they come true.
I appreciate it.
This podcast and sharing your story. Thank you to all of our viewers watching at home. Be sure to follow us at Dream Dearborn on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok as well. You can also visit us on our website at dreamdearborn.org. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and we'll see you on the next episode.